Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm chatting with David Gower from Emerita Resources. In today's interview, we discuss commodities and why David is bullish on mining equities, as well as the Aznalcóllar trial that is going on right now in Spain, where Emerita is the next in line qualified bidder in what is a pretty hotly talked about lawsuit. We also talk about IBW, the recent resource estimate, as well as the drill plans for 2025. And David gives us an overall overview on what we can look for from the company in the next year. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. David, it's good to see you again.
Hi, Steve. It's good to see you again. It's been a while.
So, I'd like to just start off quickly asking you about everything that's happening in the world in terms of commodities, specifically with we can get into maybe gold or copper, where we've really seen prices really move here. I know in the case of gold, we're seeing some really big deliveries over at the COMEX, and copper. There could be some pretty big implications from all the tariff talk. Now, I know it's a big question, and obviously you got a huge fan base in Emerita that's going to want to hear about Emerita. But first off, I just kind of want to ask you what's going through your head right now when you're thinking about commodities markets.
Well, it's a very interesting time, obviously, for commodities, and I think I'm a kind of a firm believer that we're entering a new golden age of mining that's going to last at least a decade, if not more, similar to what we would have seen maybe after post-war. We have not renewed uh, the investment in mines in the last generation, really, and a lot of the big mines that were supporting the world's production have essentially been mined out and they haven't been replaced. So we're entering a phase where the whole critical metals transition is exacerbated by probably almost a generation of underinvestment. So these things are not going to be replaced quickly. In the 60s, we could find a lot of things because geophysics was really recently invented. Things were at surface, you could permit quickly. None of those things exist today, so it's gonna take more science, more money, more time. So the only outcome for that is these commodities become more valuable, as their the markets tighten. And then on top of that, we look at the fiscal situation globally. Well, commodities broadly are priced in US dollars, and given the situation with tariffs, with deficits, etcetera, I think mainstream currencies are weakening against hard assets. So that's also going to be reflected in the price in terms of USD. So I think broadly, it's a great time for anybody who's younger than me to get into the business and think about a pretty long and solid run.
So let's get into Emerita, which I'm sure many of our viewers want us to. It's been one of the hottest stories for the last few years in the Canadian junior mining market, of which has been kind of a rough area these last few years. But I know Emerita's got a pretty big fan base. So right now, there's this really big trial going on for we'll say that the Aznalcóllar asset. Without me getting into the specific names involved, or perhaps you want to, where my understanding is the original group who won the bidding, there is alleged kind of conspiracy there, or the politicians were working together with a certain individual to take control of the asset, which basically made the whole bidding process uh, now end up in this huge court battle that's been going on for years and years and years. I think the original bidding process was back in 2015, I believe. So what's going on right now with the court case? What can you tell us for the investors who are watching this that are just trying to kind of wrap their heads around it?
Okay, so the case has been going for 10 years. The final stage started March the 3rd, and then there was a break. During that time, in the initial hearings was mostly about administrative aspects. It's a very big trial, very high profile in Spain. But the actual testimonies started this week. And already the testimonies, I would say, of the defendants are breaking down quite favorably for Emerita, it looks like. Now in Spain, this is not a jury trial. It's before 3 judges. 5 Superior Court judges have already declared the crimes of corruption related to awarding that public tender were committed. And the move that the defendants made, obviously, was to try to have the case dismissed, which they've done in the past. And they also tried to enter uh, about 40 new pieces of evidence. So yesterday was a very good day for us in that the trial judges said, yeah, no, the crimes were committed here. The case will go forward. And the evidence, except for one or two minor things that you're talking about trying to introduce, really have no bearing on the outcome of this case, and we're not going to include them. So today's testimony, from what I understand, we obviously have people there, went quite well, and so we'll see. But this is essentially a sentencing phase. So the courts have determined crimes were committed, and in Spain, you don't go to this stage unless there's an extremely high likelihood of conviction, like almost 100%. So, uh, under the law, if there's commission of a crime and awarding a public tender in Spain, they must disqualify that bid, and it must go to the next qualified bidder. And we were the only other qualified bidder. So, um, we're feeling even more confident today than we were, say, 2 or 3 months ago, with what we're seeing today. Notwithstanding, the court's gonna do its thing, and, I can never second guess it, but our counsel is all good.
I don't know if you wanna get into it, if I'm putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but, should you be awarded the asset, which so far looks favorable, what would be the next steps, for the property?
Well, the process would be, once the criminal trial is resolved, the administrative court will rule on the public tender process. So the criminal trial deals with the crimes of corruption, but once the crime is established, and the administrative courts have already done their work, so it's not a big delay for that, because once the criminal court said there would be no more grounds for appeal and no more evidence could be admitted, the case was locked for the administrative court. And we've been through this with IBW, so we know the process at that point. They will give very specific instructions to the mines branch to rescind the previous resolutions, and they'll give very specific instructions on how and when to issue a new resolution awarding the contract properly. The It took about 2 months on IBW. I expect something similar here, but maybe some deviance from that. Once we get it, there's no cash payment or anything attached to this. It's tied to the work program that we put in. Um, it was a large open pit mine, and we were looking to do a much higher grade underground operation here. So there will be a phase of drilling that the company will need to do for two purposes. One, going underground, you change the cutoffs to a higher cutoff. So for grade control, we need to drill the edges of the high grade a little tighter. And even though it's drilled as a reserve already, for underground, you just need to tighten that up. And of course, the mill that was there was built in the 50s, 60s. It's a very old mill. It's been reclaimed, and so we want to redo the metallurgy using modern milling techniques, such as Sandfire is using, or Boliden over in Portugal, or some of the Australian milling technology works really well here. So those will be the two key pieces, along with the you know finalizing the design and feasibility of the new mill and plant and all of those things, and the final permitting before we be able to construct. But it essentially goes straight into the pre-feasibility sort of level activities right away.
So you mentioned IBW. You guys put out a mineral resource estimate recently. What can you tell us?
Well, IBW it's been declared a project of significant importance with the government. So we're in the process of acquiring the mining license for that project. The new resource that we put out is quite an upgrade from what we did in 2023 for two reasons. A, it's bigger, and in 2023 we didn't have any metallurgy. Um, so this is a gold-rich system. There's almost 1 million ounces of gold in that resource, and in 2023 the QPs, because they couldn't benchmark it against metallurgy, only gave us 20% recovery on gold, which, that would be leaving 800,000 ounces out of the equation at today's gold price. That's a massive benefit. We've done the metallurgy since, and we use 64% gold recovery based on the process that we've come up with. That that now equates to combined indicated and inferred, which I know you're not supposed to do, but if you go to the website, you can see it's about 75 to 80% indicated, um, about 8.5% zinc equivalent, or 3% copper equivalent. The next resource, we expect, actually, we've already got some preliminary results showing an even better improvement in the gold recoveries, maybe higher than 85%. So in this resource, gold plus silver is approximately equal to lead plus zinc in value. If we go to an 85% recovery, that's almost becoming a precious metal system at that point. So um, that's been a very good benefit. The metallurgy has been an excellent upgrade of the project. And then on top of that, we've been drilling Cura. We continue to drill that with 4 drills, and we continue to get very good results. And it's a copper gold system, so we're adding, the two most valuable commodities in the polymetallic mix, are getting stronger within the overall system with that drilling.
David, this might be dumb question, but I'm gonna ask it. So I spent a bit of time in Mexico looking at mining projects. Keith Newmeyer from First Majestic was kind enough to bring us down to see one of them. And one of the things that we learned about was about 20 years ago, the people who got heavily involved in Mexico did very well because mining regulations were opening up, and it was just like if you were in that country at that time, it was basically the best place to be. Is there a similar analog to Spain right now in regards to that idea?
There actually is. In terms of the business climate in the south of Spain right now, you've got a combination of things. The Andalusian government, which is the government that is responsible for mining for this region, uh, put through Parliament about 2 years ago a resolution that declared that underground mining, particularly, would be a preferred economic activity in the region, and it would be supported. And that's what we're seeing with this declaration of strategic importance. It basically puts us on a fast track for permitting, and so we expect to get the environmental authorization in the coming few weeks, and by around the end of the year should have an actual mining license. So that's important. And then above that, you've got the European Union mandate for critical minerals, and this area has been identified as one of the key areas for domestic production within the EU. So at every level of government, essentially, right down to the municipalities, there's support for the project.
What does the exploration program for IBW look like for 2025?
So we're going to be continuing to drill El Cura. The key things coming up that you will see in this quarter, we expect to get the environmental authorization, which is a big de-risking event. Um, we should be able to uh, issue new information on the recoveries, particularly the precious metal recoveries, which will be a big upgrade from even the resource we just put out. And we'll be starting the PFS, and we'll go straight to pre-feasibility. We don't have to do a PEA because we've got such a high percentage already in indicated and measured. Um, so a PEA is required if you're using inferred resources in your analysis, and we don't need to. Because our deposits are from surface down, we can drill them in reasonable detail at a reasonable cost. We think we'll get the full environmental approval, which will be post the public consultation process, probably in the third quarter. And then we should see either third quarter, maybe early fourth quarter, the results of the PFS. Because we've gone through deeply into the permitting process, the PFS will be simplified because we've already worked with the government and done a lot of the engineering, uh, and they have a study from us. It's just not signed off as a 43101 study, but it meets the Spanish technical standards. So all of the infrastructure will already be in place. We've already had the iterations and moved it as part of the permitting process. So for the engineer firm that's going to come in and do the 43101 PFS and feasibility, they really have to cost what we have, and obviously they can optimize the processes, which, bringing in a strong engineering firm to do that and try to look for efficiencies. But the tailings are going to go where the tailings are going to go. The haul roads are going to go where the haul roads are going to go. The plant site is already determined, and so all the major sort of pieces of infrastructure are set as the permitting process. So it just there won't be a lot of trade off or time spent on that because it's already been done.
All right. Well, David, I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. Hopefully, we can do this again soon as the story continues to unfold. I know that you've got a shareholder base that is very passionate and loves when you hop on here. So we very much appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Well, Steve, I really much appreciate you giving us the opportunity to speak to your audience, and let's do it again soon. This trial is riding along like a wagon race. So we, we we should have some interesting news in about a month or so, perhaps.
Amazing. Thanks, David. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let us know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for watching, everyone.